Welcome to the Becoming a Pilot podcast, where we share first-hand experiences, practical advice, and insights from pilots at every stage of their journey. I'm your host, Dave Angus, and whether you're just starting out or working towards your next rating, we're here to help you navigate the path to becoming a pilot. So buckle up, stay tuned, and let's talk all things aviation.
This podcast is brought to you by Genesis Flight College, Canada's premier flight center. With an advanced fleet of Diamond aircraft and experienced instructors, Genesis Flight College provides top-tier training in the heart of southern Georgian Bay. Ready to start your journey to becoming a pilot? Inquire today.
Welcome back. On today's episode, we're going to talk about performance takeoffs and landings, which is normally a tough part for PPL, even CPL students, but definitely PPL. That's a real turning point because we're now getting into accuracy and precision, and really perfecting our takeoffs and landings. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of give you some tips and tricks. So if you are struggling with it, some common problems, and then what you can do to fix that. So let's kind of dig right into it. What are performance takeoffs and landings?
Yeah, so we have our normal landing, which is all we teach up to a certain point, and then we get into our short and soft field takeoffs and landings.
Great.
With and without obstacle.
Right. So when we say with or without an obstacle, we know that obviously obstacles change and whatever, but as far as Transport Canada is concerned, it's a 50-foot obstacle.
Yep.
And used to be right at the threshold. That's kind of what that was the standard. We would teach that. But we know now that we're allowed to move. That could be a 50-foot obstacle
Anywhere.
100 feet before the runway or whatever, right? So the scenarios change, which I really like. It's a lot more. We've always been preached to do scenario-based training. But so now let's do scenario-based testing.
Yeah.
So we have our short field takeoffs and our soft field. So let's start with short field. What is a short field? Because if I take any student right now from here and go to Brampton that's got 3,000 feet, they're going to say it's short. But is that short?
No, probably not. It depends on the aircraft, obviously. Sure. We classify short fields based on the landing distance. So your normal landing distance for the aircraft, if the runway is less than double that. Okay. So for example, we'll say our landing distance 800 feet in the DA40. So if the runway is less than 1,600, then it's classified as short field, and we have to modify our approach technique so that we can land safely on that runway.
Awesome. So what type of things are we going to modify to do a short field?
Yeah. So mainly our airspeed on approach and our touchdown technique itself. So our approach speed will be slightly slower than our normal approach speed. So for us, we use 67. Knots, and our touchdown, we have to try to be accurate with our touchdown point. And once we touch down, we're going to retract the flaps. So basically dump them because we want all of them up at one point in time. So we don't want to do it in stages. So we retract flaps rather, not dump them. And then we apply firm braking. We call it simulated max braking. And then we apply some back pressure as well to allow more weight on the wheels to utilize those brakes a little better, more efficiently.
Perfect. So let's unpack that a little. So at the beginning, we've got we want to go slower. So we're saying 67 knots. How do we come up with that number? If I'm PPL, I've never really. My instructor just always told me to fly my approach at 70. How do I know why? Where's that come from?
So POH will list that speed if the aircraft flight manual has that. Ours doesn't, so we kind of make it up.
Right, so we use that formula at 1.3 times the VSO, right?
1.3 times VSO.
Yeah. So we can use that. That gives us our VREF speed, and that's what we fly, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And normally, like if an instructor tells you, like we normally say approach at 70 because it gives a little bit of a buffer, right? It's difficult maybe for a new student or a new pilot to hold those speeds perfectly. We know that, so we normally give a little bit of a buffer. So 70, easy number to remember, gives a little bit of a buffer, and we're not going too overboard with it. But now once we start getting into performance, now we really need to know, because adding even 3 knots is going to change our landing distance, right? So we need to be precise with it. So we say 1.3 times the VSO. And we go through that. So we've got our 67. We're flying in. Everything's perfect. Tyler's teaching me how to do this perfect. I'm bang on the center line. I get to the runway. I've been aiming at the threshold, and we always pick where we're going to touch down. That's the precision aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to touch down on the second. So on the second stripe. So now how do I do? I've touched my wheels, have touched down. Now what do I do?
So we immediately put the flaps up.
Why would we put the flaps up? Because if I keep those flaps down, you told me that gives me drag. It gives me lift, but it gives me drag. Both are good things for flying, or desirable on an approach. So when I land in the 737, when I came home, I see a whole bunch of things come flying up and down and reverse thrust going on. So like, why would I put the flaps up? That makes no sense.
So we want to utilize the brakes of the aircraft. So if we get the flaps up, they generate drag, but they also generate lift as well. So with the landing, if we get the flaps up, then we can utilize the braking a little better.
I guess it puts more weight on the wheels.
Weight on the wheels, and that's also why we use back pressure slightly. Not too much to make the aircraft airborne again. And then when we say max simulated braking, because we're not actually braking any different, we don't want the student to jam on the brakes and then cause the tires to lock up, or a potential skid with that back pressure.
Right.
It's very easy to maybe not even sense it, but you could get maybe a gust of air, and the aircraft can slightly lift off, even just like a centimeter or two. And with those brakes applied hard, that'll lock the brakes up, and then when you touch back down, now you have a skidded tire.
Yeah, and I think that's something important to talk about as well. Like getting into flying, we're so used to driving, right? We drive ourselves here. If I slam on the brakes, I've got anti-lock braking, and my brake pedal starts shuddering, and I'll never lock up my tires, right? But with these, we don't, right? So it's like a race car, right? Yeah. So you push the brakes, and they'll lock up if you push them hard enough, and then you blow through tires, and that's never good for anybody, right? So we put the flaps up, we pulled the back pressure for maximum aerodynamic braking, we call it. We've applied, for here, we simulate the full braking, but we're going to get on the brakes, and then the aircraft comes to a stop. Everything's good. We did that. So now we were saying we also have an option of doing a 50-foot obstacle.
Yeah. So what
changes with that?
So your approach aim point would change. So if the obstacle, let's say it is the traditional TC 50-foot obstacle at the threshold. Yeah. So it's right at the threshold. So for the students, they need to approach differently. So their aim point should be further down the runway. Okay. That'll give them that obstacle clearance. We want to clear that obstacle, which is 50 feet, by an additional 50 feet. So for us at Collingwood, 730 is our field elevation, and we want to approach over that obstacle at the threshold at 830. It's 100 feet clearance from the runway, 50 from the obstacle, and for that, the aim point should be the second dash. Right. Typically, what I teach my students is the second dash. So that starts in the downwind, the early or late downwind, kind of when your beam of your touchdown point is typically where we'll focus on that 45-degree angle. Right. To start that base turn. So if there's an obstacle at the threshold, now it's the second dash. Right.
Now, just to go back a little bit, when we talk about the aiming point, because I've had students ask me when I've said like, oh, what's your aiming point? And they look at me like I have four heads, right? Because maybe they came from another school. They didn't talk about that. Or it's one of those simple things that we would do subconsciously. But they'd have no idea. Right. So what is an aiming point?
So when we were on approach, the numbers are usually your aim point. Okay. You're not going to touch down at the numbers. You're just aiming for that. You want to keep it consistent on the approach so that it's fixed on the windscreen. Okay. If it moves up or down, that tells you that you're either climbing or descending. Right. Depending on what.
So it's the place that like we just want fixed.
Yeah, fixed on the screen on the approach, constant airspeed, and that aim point's fixed on the screen. So, right. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to clear the obstacle by 50 feet, so 830 feet here at Collingwood. Yep. And we're aiming for the second stripe. And so now I get to that second stripe. I'm perfectly at 67, and I go into my round out and my flare. Yeah. And then where should I be expecting to touch down?
Yeah, so I like to teach my students 3 dashes past that. So that's approximately 600 feet maybe. Right. So the aim point's the second, touchdown on the 5th. Sure. That's what I teach. Other instructors might teach maybe it's the 3rd for the aim point and the 5th for the touchdown. So a little shorter of tolerance. It all depends. If your approach speed's constant, then it's going to be somewhere close to that.
Right.
And you're allowed the tolerance of -50 plus 200. So
Right.
with the approach, it's easier to land a little longer. You have more leeway there.
Sure.
But shorter should never, obviously you don't want to land off of that runway because you're simulating your touchdown point to be the edge of the runway.
Right.
So the scenario with obstacles either on the approach end or the departure end. This is why we use short field takeoff technique. And,
Right.
And if you're feeling like you're going to be short, it's very easy to correct that. You just add a little shot of power, bring the throttle up slightly, and then right back down. That'll give you enough lift to carry you to your touchdown point.
Sure. And with that, the going long, the issue is what a lot of people will do, and it's actually a critical fail in the test, is that, I'm getting too long. I'm getting to that 200 feet. I got to put this plane on the ground. And they jam the nose forward, which is immediate, and to push the plane, force it onto the ground, which is an immediate critical fail. Yeah. Right. So it's better to be on the other side where you have a little bit of leniency. However, we know that we can only be 50 feet short, which may seem like a lot to us standing on the ground, but in the airplane, 50 feet goes by nothing, right? So easy fix is to be precise with everything. But like you said, it's one of the tougher exercises. I would say probably is the toughest exercise in the PPL and even CPL, because all that precision stuff takes a lot of work and just takes a lot of repetition. Right. And the PPL is, like we've always said, it's drinking from a fire hose, right? It's so much information. I always say it's the hardest license to get because everything's new. At least with the CPL, it's tighter tolerances, but you've been flying for 200 hours. Yeah. The PPL, your head's still spinning, and then they're like flight test. Yeah. Right? So it's really difficult because it's all brand new information, both the theory, both the practical, everything. So we have the short field landing, which we know we're going to use on just shorter fields. What about now? Let's move to the soft field landing. So soft field landing is normally confused with just grass. We know that grass is probably one of the more prevalent times you're going to use this. Yeah. But it also pertains to any sort of contaminated surface, right? Snow covered, gravel, ice, even wet runways, right? We're going to use the same technique because potential of hydroplaning, things like that, right? So, so we're going to use the same technique. So let's walk through the differences between the short field and then the soft field landing.
Yeah, so for the soft field, once you're entering the runway, when we teach students this, it's a simulated soft field. So we do it on our paved runway. Right.
It's too bad we lost the grass.
We used to have the grass runway, which was really good for practicing. Yeah. It's really practical, obviously. So when we pass the hold short line, now it's a simulated soft field. So we want that full back pressure. We want to keep the aircraft light. We don't want the nose wheel to dig in. Right. And that would bring us to one continuous roll through to taking off. So all our checks are done, and then we're continuously rolling. We're not stopping. We're not using brakes on the soft field. And then we're going to slowly apply power, probably over the course of 3 seconds to full power, confirming gauges are green while holding that full back pressure. And prior to actually getting in the aircraft, if I remember, I'll usually tell the student to sit in their seat, close the canopy, and I'll go to the back of the aircraft, push the tail down, and that'll give them like the max nose up attitude that they can expect to see before they have a tail strike. Right. Gives them like a little more confidence going into it because they're really concerned when holding that full back pressure after they apply full power that the nose wheel is going to pop up and they're going to get a tail strike, right? Doesn't happen that quick, but you should get some kind of feedback in the stick that once the aircraft nose is about to lift off, so you have that a little bit of fair warning. But once it comes up, then we're going to release that full back pressure and hold the nose wheel off until the aircraft lifts off on its own. Right. And then leveling into ground effect. Okay. So we'll stay in that cushion of air where
what is ground effect?
So the wingtip vortices are being generated, and that will create drag. So towards the ground, half to a full wingspan from the ground, the aircraft won't generate those wingtip vortices. That
it just like stops when it's the ground, like because it comes back, right?
Yeah, so you're
cushion, yeah.
exactly. So that that will provide you to be able to accelerate quicker when you're close to the ground.
Yeah, I always give people the kind of the real world reference. The ducks. If you ever watch a duck fly,
Yeah,
they'll always fly close to
close
the
to the water.
because it's more efficient,
Uh-huh.
right? And for us, we don't really care if it's more efficient or not. We just want to get up to speed faster and then get out of there.
Yeah.
But for them, it's their energy, it's their calories. It's they don't want to use as much. They want to use as little as possible.
Yeah.
So they fly as close as they can to the water for as long as they can. Like, and most of the time, that's where they stay.
Yeah.
It's more efficient. And their wingspan might be this. I don't know what a duck's wingspan is, right? A couple feet, right? So they gotta stay pretty low, right? And the lower, the more efficient, right? So I always say that when people are trying to kind of wrap their head around this, look at a duck. Go to the beach and watch a duck fly and watch them close to the water. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So the soft field can be with and without an obstacle as well.
Right. Okay.
Right? So we would obviously take that into consideration, and then I think that covers everything with the takeoff. And then
so actually, sorry, just with the obstacle, without the obstacle, how does that change our takeoff procedure? So we get into ground affected, so that's fine. But do we climb out at the same speeds, or are they different speeds?
So it changes the speed base if there's an obstacle or not.
Okay.
So for us, we climb at VY and
with no obstacle.
With no obstacle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So 76 knots. Is our best rate of climb, and then our best angle would be for an obstacle. So VX, that'd be 67 for the DA40. And that's the numbers that we've come up with for VX because we don't have it published in the POH.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the AFM for the DA40. Like if anyone's flying a Cessna or something, it does have a VX VY.
Yeah.
But
so it's just a steeper climb.
Yeah, exactly.
Angle.
It's going to be a steeper climb. The numbers that they name it different in the AFM.
Yeah.
So that's why we've had to kind of interpolate what we think they meant.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like 67 is a safe speed. We wouldn't want to be slower than that. And so if we're flying that at VY, then anyways.
So we climb out of VX if there's an obstacle, and then once we're clear of that obstacle, typically 200 feet is more than enough, and then we'll resume VY climb out from there. And then on the approach is normal. It's no different. 70 knots on approach. And then if we have an obstacle, then we consider that for our aim point, shifting the aim point depending on where the obstacle is. But then the change with soft field comes in the landing phase. So once we're coming down, we're going to reduce throttle as normal once runway is assured, slowly closing that throttle. And then when we get into the round out, we're going to add just a touch of power, typically 1 to 2 inches, but just enough. Typically what I teach is just enough that you can hear the engine kind of spooling up again.
Right.
And what that does is that creates a little bit of lift that will soften the landing. And
it's so easy to just like jam a ton of power and then it's like, oh, you're climbing again.
Yeah, exactly. It happens all the time.
What I always say, like, just add a little bit. I always, oh, geez, I have to really specify what a little bit is because it's really just a small. I like how you said you can hear the engine just kind of rev up a little bit.
Yeah.
And all we're trying to do is, now that we're looking at the VSI, but let's say the VSI is saying we're descending at 400 feet per minute, normal, or 300 feet per minute, whatever.
Sure.
We want to take that and move that to as low as possible, right? So if we can get that to less than 100 feet per minute or less than 50 feet per minute, then that's just going to make a softer landing. That's the whole idea of it. So adding that power is just slowing that. We're just arresting that descent rate. It's all.
Yeah, exactly. And we're in ground effect again. So being close to the ground. And then essentially you just want to keep the aircraft off the ground for as long as you can. So I tell my students, envision the runway as lava and you cannot touch down, right? Just keep it going as long as you can. Keep the nose wheel up. Keep holding back pressure. And if you execute it perfectly, you'll barely feel the main gear touchdown. Yeah. And then after that, you're still keeping that nose wheel off because we don't want it to come down hard. If it is a soft surface, that could dig in, cause potentially a prop strike or something like that. So, and it's really cool because you get to see like the aircraft, you're kind of wheeling the aircraft all the way down the runway. And again, you're holding back pressure enough to keep that nose wheel off until the airspeed's so low that the nose wheel will gently touch down on its own.
Right. And we leave those flaps in because it's the opposite of what us wanting to stop really fast. on a short field. This one, like a grass runway, may be short as well, but now we have drag. Like if we're doing it on a grass field, every POH or AFM is going to tell us, what landing on grass is going to do to our landing distance and takeoff distances. So on takeoff, it normally increases your distance, but landings will reduce it, right? Because there's our drag, right? We don't need to put on the brakes. That tall grass is doing it for us, right?
Yeah, and
it'll stop us pretty quick.
Exactly. And to tie this to a previous episode that we did with forced approach, this is kind of the technique that we're utilizing on a forced approach. Although we don't have that power.
We could utilize that like with our airspeed, right? Like we can still, when we do our forced approach, we're at 73. That's our best glide.
Yeah.
And if we're, normal VREF in our airplane might be around 67-ish, but it's, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
We have that extra energy to do, instead of adding the power in, we can actually use that energy with the same effect, right?
Yeah.
Just really getting it into a nice low ground effect and slowly bringing that nose up to allow the wheels to touch down. But you're exactly right. It's the same technique. We don't want to, it's so tough to armchair quarterback when you see people landing in a field, right? It's really tough. But a lot of times you look at it and they do such a fantastic job and then like rocket into the ground. It's, hey, just do that short field technique, right? And the soft field technique, and keep that nose off as long as you can. Now, sometimes it's hard. The fields are soft, this time of year, and then getting into the spring, fields are soft. There's not much you can do. It's going to dig in. But always try to give yourself the best opportunity, right?
Yeah. And in terms of performance for a soft field, like we talked about the aim points for a short field, the first third of the field is the tolerance for the flight test. But you still want to give like an aim point, touchdown point when you're performing it. And because you have that added power, you're going to float a little longer. So your touchdown point is going to be further than a typical short field or something like that.
Yeah. So giving a touchdown, I normally just say, let them know you're going to land in the first third of the runway, but you yourself should know where you're going to touch down. Yeah. Right. Like it's good practice, and we should be proficient enough that we know roughly where we're going to be touching down. Right. And so with all of these, with all the performance takeoffs and landings, the biggest thing that I always say, the biggest issue that people have is airspeed control. Yeah. It's the toughest thing. Yeah. I completely get it. Energy management is really difficult, especially for a new pilot. So my one piece of advice, if you're really struggling with performance takeoffs and landings, is check your airspeed right from the beginning. You take off, you turn cross when you get downwind, you start your downwind checks nice and early, get your speed. Doesn't need to be your VREF speed. That's not what we're looking for in the downwind. But if my downwind airspeed's 100 knots or 110 or whatever airplane you're flying, be at that. Don't accept 105. Don't accept not looking at it, right? 100 knots. Okay. In our airplane, 100 knots. And then we're going to pull the power back to about 14 inches, then start our descending left-hand turn. Okay. Now we're getting to 90 knots. Then when we start turning, we're 500 feet AGL, turning base to final. Okay. Now we're going to lock in our VREF speed, get our landing flap in, right? So getting these things done nice and early, but always being like critical of yourself and correcting the issues as they see come. Like, too many times I'll see, the altitude's low, and then they just stay being low. Yeah. Fix it right away.
So how would you suggest students fix the altitude and or the airspeed on approach?
So everything, we got to just look back to attitude plus power equals performance, right? So if I'm low, well, we need to add power, but if I just add power and keep my attitude, I'm just going to continue just flying faster, lower. Yep. So fix the attitude, maintain that airspeed. Airspeed is king or queen in this situation. Always be on your airspeed. Right. So if we're aiming 73, so 73, we're on it. We're going to add power. We're going to raise the nose to maintain that 73, get back on profile and continue. It's the same thing when I see it all the time with when you're off center line, and I'll say to a student, let's get back on center line, and they'll point to the threshold. Yeah. Right. Well, don't point to the threshold.
No, we don't want to get to
get back on course, and then continue in, right?
Yeah.
So
it's an overcorrection to get back to it and then stay on it.
Yeah, exactly. So so same thing with this. If you're low, add the power, get the nose up, maintain your 73, you'll get back on profile. And if it's wildly off, then we need to overshoot.
Exactly.
Right? Like you need to come around and do it again.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, even if it's your flight test, like if you make a mistake, make the best decision. Don't just double down on your mistake, right?
Yeah.
Sure, we don't want to have to overshoot because of an issue that we made, but you're so much better to say, you know what, I'm wildly low or high. It's unsafe.
Yeah.
I'm going to overshoot. And I don't know of too many examiners that, you know, sure, you may not get a 4.
Exactly.
But if you make the right decision, as opposed to saying, oh, I'm too high, I'm just going to kill the power, shove the nose down, and then, or whatever, but you're just hoping for the best, and then you come down and you rocket onto the runway. There's no way you're passing that.
No. So, and then it goes back to the stabilized approach criteria, right? So if you're unstable by 200 feet, then just overshoot.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we keep overshooting coming around, well, maybe we need some more practice with you and getting more proficient with it. But it's just always, if you're ever unsure or you're really not stable, I'm not saying if it's not 100% perfect. Okay. We need to be able to adjust and fix our problems. But if it is so far gone, don't double down on it. Go around. And if it's unsuccessful or whatever, get some practice, keep doing it. It's a tough exercise, right?
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about circuits in the past, how to do that. And that's really what ties this all together, because we start with the circuits and then we come into performance, takeoffs, and landings. So sometimes just taking the step back, going into the circuits. You can listen to our podcast about how we do a circuit. Sometimes just dumbing it down and going back to the basics is it really helps that. So you can listen to that. But anyways, if you ever have any questions about performance, takeoffs, and landings, we'd love to hear it, or even some stories, right? Or how you corrected a problem. Like, you know, when I got into instructing, I remember Pete. I think it was Pete, actually. He was saying, if you ever have a student, you know, like really can't get that round out and touchdown and struggling with their landings, put a cushion under them, right? Sometimes just that added height can really fix it, right? And in the diamond aircraft, we can't change the height of the seats. So the only way we could do that is with the cushions, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just something so little like that, and then everything clicks. So sometimes going back to the basics, and revisiting circuit lessons. Like I said, we have a podcast where we talk about it. There's lots of resources online, but also talk to your instructor, right? Go through, just learn how to land again normal, and then move forward. So
good.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks.
And as we say, always come check the other podcast. Give us a shout out.
Yeah.
And always do something to just get a little bit better every day.
Yeah. So better every day.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks.
Talk to you.